Hi, this is Dave Starman. I am a member of USA Hockey's Goalie Nation, and our main job in the United States is to make sure that we create a program whereby the non-goalie can become a very effective goaltender coach. I've been coaching for 34 years, whether it be at the youth hockey level and even at the pro level, and I've spent the last 11 years scouting professionally, first for the Toronto Maple Leafs, then the Montreal Canadiens, and last year with NHL Seattle. And goaltending has always been something that has been part of my coaching regimen everywhere I've gone, having been an ex-collegiate goaltender. And one of the things that we have found over many years is coaches sometimes get very afraid to work with their young goalies because they're afraid that they're going to teach them the wrong thing. So they almost avoid them completely. And a few years back, probably about 10 years ago, one of the things that we did within USA Hockey is I was lucky enough to be involved with a group of 4 or 5 guys where we sat down in a room for a couple of days and we redesigned the curriculum for our coaching education program. And in the process, we wound up creating what has been called the American Development Model's Goaltender Development Program. And that program has grown throughout the United States to include over 300 goaltenders whose job is twofold. Number one, it's to make better goalies. But number two, it is to really empower coaches to become better goalie coaches, because we've all seen over the years how much you have worked with other players, but the coaches are just afraid to get their goaltenders involved in anything goalie specific if they never played the position. We all know sometimes it's really hard to find a goaltender that lives in your neighborhood that wants to come down and dedicate the time to working with your young goalies. Sometimes you live in a rural area where it could take a goalie coach an hour just to get to your rink and back and forth. So what we want to do is empower coaches to be goalie coaches, or in a lot of the organizations that I've ever been a part of on a youth organization, when a parent comes to me and says, "Who's your goalie coach?" everybody in the organization can say, "I'm a goalie coach." And that has been something we have found a tremendous amount of success with. And that is something that we're going to work on today, trying to empower you, the coach who has never, ever stopped the shot in your life, to become a person, a coach that can become not only a goalie coach, but also a goalie mentor. So the objectives here are in very different fashion, and we're going to go through a lot of different things. But number one is we want you to lose that fear of working with your goalies. Get it out of your mind. It's easier than you think. What you're not going to do is maybe teach the goaltender technical things, but what you can do is facilitate a practice plan, 5, 10, 15 minutes where you're working just with your goalies, where you can actually help them with their stance, how they move, how they stop shots, do they pass the eyeball test, and we'll be able to train your eyes as to what to look for when working with a young goalie, and put them into drill situations, both skill and technique and game situational, that can help their game. So you're going to become better goalie coaches. You're also going to create that atmosphere that the goalies want to be in. Let's be honest about it. A lot of goaltenders' biggest fears going to practice is that they're not going to get any work. They're not going to get any attention. And I think that over the years, we have really learned that goalies are players too. And if they're on your team, it's your responsibility as the coach to know how to work with every player in your team, not just your forwards, not just your defensemen, but your goalies are an important part of your group. And as we like to say, if you want to become a great coach, get a great goalie. We also say in youth hockey, if you want to become a great coach, develop a great goalie. And that's part of what we're going to be discussing. Well, how is this possible? How do we do this? Well, I think when you look along other sports, and this is one of the great lessons that I've learned just following other sports and reading up on this topic, when you look at the NCAA, especially college football, you've got position coaches that never played the position that they're teaching. So you might have a linebacker coach that was a running back. You might have a guy working with the offensive line that worked on the defensive line. On a basketball coaching staff, forwards work with guards, guards work with forwards. It all changes. Now, I know with Major League Baseball, everybody always says, well, the pitchers are a specialized position and their pitching coach is an ex-pitcher. But the manager, at some point, has got to work with the pitching staff too. So there's always a crossover in where you can go to. And you'll see in my next little point here, with some of the names I put up there, the Allaire brothers are famous because they've created the modern goaltending style that we all see today. Neither one of them were NHL goalies. As a matter of fact, neither one of them were goalies at any level. They were a pair of kinesiologists who studied the position to figure out how to play it better. They're the ones who realized that the bigger the goalie you have, the better they're going to cover the net and the better technique that you can impart to them. But it didn't come from playing the position, it came from studying the position. Warren Stralos, long time considered the dean of USA Hockey goaltending and American goaltending. When I was at the Baltimore Skipjacks in the early 1990s, Warren was the goalie coach of the Washington Capitals. I used to watch Warren come down to the Baltimore Arena and get on the ice in his work boots and his vest and his hat, no stick, no gloves, no skates. And he used to work with the goalies there, and we had several good ones: Jimmy Rivnak, Sean Simpson, Oli Kolzik, who won a Vezina, Byron Dafoe, who won a Vezina, and later Jim Carey. We had some real good goaltenders that came through Baltimore, and Warren, without ever putting on his skates, was able to get out there and work with those goaltenders. Mitch Korn has developed Pekka Rinne in Nashville, worked with Braden Holtby with the Washington Capitals, won a Stanley Cup there, and has done wonderful work with the New York Islanders, whether it be Robin Lehner, Simeon Varlamov, Thomas Greiss. Mitch Korn is considered the elite goaltending coach in the NHL right now, was never a big-name goaltender. Didn't play the position into a high level. But the last one's the most interesting, and that's Grant Stanbrook. Grant Stanbrook was a legendary assistant coach at the NCAA level for a long time. His two longest stints at the University of Wisconsin and the University of Maine, where he helped develop, and he was not a goalie, but he was the goalie coach in both of those places. He helped develop some names I think a lot of NHL fans would be very familiar with: Mike Richter, Curtis Joseph at Wisconsin, and then Jimmy Howard and Ben Bishop at the University of Maine. So I think we could see you don't necessarily have to have been a big-time goalie or even played the position into a long-standing career to be able to understand it, be able to teach it, especially the Allaire brothers and Grant Stanbrook. And the last one, I threw this website on for you. Make sure you track it down and take a look at it. It is really good, and it's something that we are really proud of in Goalie Nation. And that is our own goaltending website at USA Hockey. There's a lot of stuff on there regarding age-appropriate training, drills, how to work with your goalie. It is really tailored towards the non-goaltender coach to be able to effectively work with goalies. Now, one thing that we've been noticing around the United States, around Canada, there are a lot of rinks and a lot of practices going on still to this day where the practices are not benefiting the goalies, even with the best of intention. Take a look here, and you'll see a couple of examples. And this is a video that we shot at USA Hockey where the goaltenders are getting a lot of work, but they're not getting quality work. Take a look at drill number 1 going on here. It's a 2-on-0. One after another. The second group is starting before the first group even finishes. You think the goalie is getting a chance to get reset? You think the goaltender is getting a lot out of this? All the goalie is doing right now after the first 2 shots, he's surviving or she's surviving. Now take a look. You got the kid in the upper corner. Guys are just fooling around in front of him. And the kid in the middle, he's not getting up. He's not getting reset. He's not following the path of the puck. All that's happening is there are a million shots coming at him, and he is swimming around the crease, diving around, not really getting any quality work. And as we like to say, the quality component is much more important than a quantity important. It reminds me of a great story that John Van Biesbroek told me, even at the NHL level. John and Mike Richter were goaltending partners with the New York Rangers. He said there were times where they would face 30, 40, 50 shots in a drill. The drill would never stop. After those first 10 shots, all they were doing was surviving. And if you take a look at this drill here, here's a little shot to the front of the net. Now they're going the other way. Here come 3 shooters, one after another. They go wide. Look at the goalie. Goes down on the first shot, stays down. Second shot stays down. Third shot stays down. So there's really no activity for the goalie in terms of actual game scenario, and you're not being able to work on your technique. Moving to this screen. Take a look at what's going on here, and you'll see the captions that are done for you. Everything is done with the goaltender set. So he's facing the puck. He or she challenges out. He or she faces the shot, then gets back and gets set again. So this drill is going really well. You can facilitate this drill no matter who you are because the goaltender is getting the proper reps. Now watch what's starting to happen. Now all of a sudden the drills are starting too quick. The players are picking up the pace so they get more reps in. When that happens, is the goaltender allowed to get set and follow the path of the puck? No. Is the goaltender now being put in a situation where they're not getting the full effect of the drill? Yes, that's the problem. So one thing that you want to do as the coach that is facilitating these drills is to be able to make sure that you are watching what's going on, telling the players, number one, don't start a new action until the goalie is set. You, as the coach, are determining where you want the goalie set from. Do you want them on the post? Or do you want them in a butterfly to start? Do you want them at a different spot and challenging out? You determine it. You're the coach. But you've got to make sure that the players understand that the next action does not start until the goalie is ready. Because what are you doing in these first 10, 15 minutes of practice where you've got the goalie by yourself? You're working on technique. For them, it is an important time, whether they're 8U, 10U, 12U, 14U, and up. This is an important time for them. There's some trial and error going on here, which hopefully leads to trial and success. There is a specific thing that you as the coach want to do that maybe your goaltender struggled with the following weekend. Maybe they had a hard time with shots on the ice between their knees. Well, you may want to design a drill similar to what you just saw, where you're telling the shooters, get your pass, let the goalie come out, and fire one right between the knees so that they can work on getting their knees closed, making some saves, and regaining some of the confidence they might have lost in the following weekend. You're the facilitator, but in this case, the technique is what you're working on, not the pace, not the amount of reps, but the quality of reps that you are giving the goaltender that is in the net. Which leads us into the next portion, and that is there are two different ways that you can have your practice habits. Number one is blocked, and the other one is random and varied. Blocked is specific, and that's kind of what we were just talking about, the technique-based component. Random varied is more game situational. So let's go through both of them real quick so we get a good understanding of where we are here. In the blocked scenario, you got a couple of components. Number one, you're working on one thing. So what did we just discuss? In the last scenario, the hypothetical was you're going to put your goalie in a scenario where they're going to work on shots 5-hole so that they can close it up and be more confident there. So that's a single skill, technique-based drill that you are creating for them in whatever way you want to create it. And you as the coach, you could do all the shooting yourself. You could put the goalie on the post and have the goalie come out and you can shoot. Now, obviously, if you're shooting at a 10-year-old, you're not ripping shots. And if you're shooting at a 16-year-old, you want to put a little mustard on it so that they're forced to react with some speed. But the bottom line is you're working on their technique. And you can get a lot of repetition here. Just make sure that you always ask the goalie, do you have any wind? Can you breathe? If they can't breathe, their technique is going to break down. If their technique breaks down, then you're not doing anything other than helping them burn calories, and that doesn't help anybody in this situation. On the other side of it, the random and the varied. Now you're working on a lot of different components. This to me would be small area games. This to me would be a multifaceted drill where there might be a second or a third shot. This might be where there's pace. Now, if you're going to do this, number one is make sure your goalie is starting from a set spot. That still goes, but you can only go maybe 5 shots hard because at that point, you're really going to bag the goalie. You're going to have to change him out. So having both kids there or even 3 kids there would be something that you would want to focus on in that scenario. That, like I said, is more the game situational style of drill as opposed to the blocked where you're only working on one thing. So what are we looking for? You're the non-goalie. You're the coach. You're running this thing. You got 10 and 12-year-olds that are coming to you and hoping that you can help them out. There's a lot of things you want to look for, and number one is a good stance. And a lot of them, you'll see them in their stance, and you will know from your years in the game whether or not that stance looks good. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures in a second of what to look for. I'll give you a guide. But this is something that you can take a shot of this screen and put it on your phone. And when you're out there working with your young goalies, use this as a reference material. Take a look down at it. Okay, you're looking at your phone and you're checking all of these things. The balance component is a fun one for the goalies. You get them in their stance, and you skate over to them. But you might want to push down on their shoulder. You might want to push their stick, push their goal pads, lean on them a little bit. And if they can hold their stance, if they can fight you off, they're balanced. If you push on the shoulder or push on their back a little bit and they fall or they lose their balance, that means that they're not set up properly in their stance, and you're going to need to work with them to correct what their proper stance should be. Gloves, I'm going to show you pictures of everything that's coming up here with the gloves and where they should be, where your weight should be distributed, and how it should look. But remember, I'm going to give you this little video right here. This should make you laugh a little bit. It's from the movie My Fellow Americans. The guy in the middle is looking to his left and right, realizing the 2 former presidents of the United States are standing next to him in a men's room. But it's the conversation that happens here, which should always jar you to remember how important the stance is.
How's it going?
Are you them? I mean, are you the real guys?
Oh, yeah, we are.
Oh, man. I think you're awesome.
No fair peeking.
Oh, sorry about that.
I'm just kidding. I think you're doing a great job, too. Nice stance. That's important.
And that is the key to goaltending is the stance. So let's go over the stance a little bit so you just get a good view of what this all looks like. This is a video we once again produced at USA Hockey, and it goes through the basic goaltending stance with the young goalies, which most of you will probably be working at, starting with this component right here, the finger. Way back when I was younger, Vic came out with a stick. It was called the Curtis Curve. And the Curtis Curve actually had a notch in the front of the paddle.